welcome to Free Talk Live. You can bring up whatever you want here. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. With you tonight, it's Ian.
The Department of Redundancy Department.
And Angie.
All right, so you can bring up anything you want. 603-283-6160. Well, looks like Florida supermarket is sparking outrage, according to popculture.com. NBC's Sam Brock, one of their local reporters in Florida, I guess, went to a supermarket and was upset when he saw not only customers without masks on, but also store employees.
Can we send them a tip?
Masks. Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know. It's not clear actually what the supermarket chain is. I think they're actually being purposefully, they're keeping that to their chest here. I guess they don't.
Yeah, they probably don't want to attract a whole bunch of customers who want to see a human face.
Right.
Is there a mask mandate in Florida?
I don't know. I think there may be. According to the store here, there are some rules in Florida. City Council, looked like this was Naples, Florida. So the city council there does have a mask mandate.
Okay.
And according to this story here, the Florida supermarket is sparking outrage after video surfaced of customers' employees going about their business without masks. The 15-second clip was shared Wednesday by NBC's Sam Brock, who was astonished as he walked into the popular grocery store in Naples, Florida, only to see people both young and old flouting the rules for mask wearing.
They like to breathe.
My God. Dogs and cats living together, fire and brimstone falling from the sky. What's next?
Brock in his tweet wrote that a sign outside the store cited, quote, medical exemptions, unquote, preventing Brock from asking any questions. The video has since been viewed more than 2 million times, raking in over 9,000 retweets. And
see how hungry people are to see a human face? I mean, you put up a 15-second clip of somebody without a mask on, and 2 million people want to see it.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
Shopping.
What's not clear is how many of the 2 million views are from people who are outraged, supposedly, as this article suggests by the clip, versus those who are in favor of what's going on in the clip. One person wrote as a response, quote, that having a medical exemption for wearing a mask should not mean come on in and infect everybody, instead saying that it means you can get your groceries shopped and delivered to you at the sidewalk or delivered at home or some other method. It's not a free pass to be an a-hole, they said.
Wow. I have such fun with people like that online.
But you see what they're trying to do here, and this was definitely on the way where the people who are the mask people, they believe they are the normal people, and so therefore
the Karens, the control freaks.
Anyone without a well, they don't believe they're Karens. They believe that the people who are complaining about being forced to wear masks are the Karens. And
well, I mean, poking into other people's business is the main thing the Karens do. So I'm gonna have to put that right back in their court.
I don't disagree with you about that, nobody. But if you go and you look at like the definition of a Karen,
yeah, I know they try and twist stuff around. They lie. That's what they do.
Well, but supposedly
nobody tells the truth.
Supposedly, the definition of a Karen just has to do with somebody who complains to management about a thing.
So Brock would be a Karen.
Is not the side that just goes in, does their thing, and leaves. Yeah. It's the side that bitches about the people who go in, do their thing, and leave.
Yeah, usually.
I mean, I've never walked into a store without a mask on, walked up and complained to management. I walk in, I do my thing, and I get out.
Yeah, neither have I, and I wouldn't. And I don't know. Obviously, we can't speak for everybody.
They're trying to misappropriate this word, and I'm not going to let it happen.
I think you're right about that. I'm just trying to get, I'm playing devil's advocate here, giving you the other.
I understand what they're trying to imply. Yeah. I'm just saying what they're trying to imply is not the reality of the situation.
No doubt. Well, I mean, these people, they live in their own separate reality. That's the thing.
Well, they can go back there and leave the rest of us alone then.
But that's the problem. They want to prohibit us people who want to be free, people who want to have a free face, for instance, they want to prohibit us from going into the store. They think that we should be the ones who are staying at home ordering food, and that we should be the ones relegated to sitting out in cars and calling for delivery
if they're too
outside.
cowardly to get within 6 feet of me, good luck making me.
Yeah.
Now, I do my drive-up orders at Target now instead of going in, just because it's hassle to deal with the employees.
Do they give you a hard time there?
They do. They give me a hard time.
Really? Like,
Yeah.
give me an example. What happened?
Well, I went in once whenever they had somebody at the door, and we walked in, and I said I had a medical exemption, and he said, "No, you don't." And I
Really?
lost it. And Mikey was there. He's 16, and so he was like, "Mom," and I just went off on this poor guy, and he was like, "Well, what's your exemption?" And I was like, "You
None
can't
of your
ask me that."
business.
Yeah.
So I went over to the manager, and I said, "You should just really school him on what he can and can't say." And of course, the manager was very apologetic, but I've had more than one interaction.
So they didn't
like
kick
that.
you out of the store?
No, that he said, "Well, we can bring you your stuff." I said, "I just need to get diapers, for Molly." And he was like, "Well, we can go get it and bring it." And I said, "No, I want to
that's
go
all
in.
right.
This is what we do. We
Yeah.
come in, she enjoys it, and we buy more
Right.
things and we leave." And so they let me get my stuff, but I haven't been back in there since.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah, see, I don't know. Actually, the only time I've had a hard time recently was when I went to Walmart actually to get Mikey, because the cops were there after
yeah.
him, so I
remember that.
charged in after them. And
Hold on,
I'm-
slow down a second. They called the cops at Walmart on your son.
Yeah, my
Angie.
16-year-old.
Yeah, so he had just gone for whatever reason to get something.
He did.
And
Probably Doritos.
And normally when I go in there, it's like if they say anything, it's something mask, and I say thank you and walk in, or no thank you and walk in.
Yep.
And that's the end of it. I don't have any other further interactions with anyone else about it. But they decided to call the cops on him.
Yes, they did. I don't know the entire situation because I wasn't there, but they did call the cops, and the cop said, "Do you have an exemption?" And he said yes. And I believe something about the manager said something, about trespassing, and Mikey said, "Well, am I trespassing?" And the manager said, "No, you're not
Oh, okay.
trespassing. You can come in and shop now." But they did call the cops and say
Wow.
he had it. And Mikey's just cool as a cucumber, so it didn't affect him at all. He thought it was great. He was like, they had to waste
he
their time
and the
and come
cops
out.
were gone by the time I got there, but I go in charging through the store. First person, they tried to stop me at the door. They tried to stop me at the outer door. They tried to stop me at the inner door, and they tried to stop me, some lady by the check cashing place. And I'm just like, nope, don't have time for you. Got an issue.
And the big deal up here in King
Gas station.
Yep, the owner was in there, and I'm in there all the time, and so the employees know me. And he said, I was with Mikey, ma'am, you have to have a mask. And I said, no, thank you. And the employee's standing there, and he just starts smiling, and the guy's on me, and I'm like, no, thanks. Well, you have to have an exemption. And he gets
This is the owner.
Yeah, he gets kind of loud, and Mikey's just shaking his head, and I'm
Are
like,
you demanding
yeah.
to see my medical records, sir? Because
like,
I'm pretty
they
sure
know me
that's
in here.
illegal.
I'm in here at least twice a day, okay? And he was like, oh, well, just tell me you have an exemption. And I'm like, I have an exemption.
Right. And
Mikey
then he
said
let
me
you
too.
alone.
No, you could tell he didn't believe me, but he let us stay.
I ought to get a sign that just a little sign like the Roadrunner used to always hold up by the side of the road that just says, I have an exemption.
There you go. Leave me alone.
Just walk in.
Yeah, I didn't have any issue today, and there's a local corner store here in Keene called Corner News, which has been a long time Bitcoin accepting place. And I'd heard last year that the employees there were not being very nice, and I went in there, and I had not been in there basically all year, and had no real reason to go. And went in, and the employee said something about, hey, do you have a mask or something like that? And I said, no, I'm exempt. Is that okay? And he said, yeah, sure. Come on in.
Excellent.
Yeah, no
That's
problem.
good to know.
Yeah, no problem.
Groovy.
So 603-283-6160, but some people are all worked up over this supermarket, which has yet to actually be named in this story. They named the owner, and it might be called Oaks Farms Seed to Table. Alfie Oaks is the owner here, and apparently he is, quote, notoriously anti-mask, and in the past
Groovy.
has come under fire for calling both COVID-19 and Black Lives Matter movement hoaxes. We'll weigh in here a little
kind of
further on this.
Unfortunate on the second one, but the mask thing is certainly a hoax.
603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. If you want to jump in the discussion, share your experience, What are things like out there? You can join us. This is Free Talk Live, 603-283-6160. Let's go to your phone calls and thoughts here. Josh is in Tennessee listening to WGOW there in Chattanooga. Go ahead, Josh.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Yeah. I was just kind of listening in. I listen to you guys quite often, and, I kind of heard a little bit about the not wearing the masks and everything like that, and I know I was just kind of wondering about why y'all's stance is so firm on not keeping masks on. Just asking, curious.
Well, the main reason for me is nobody tells the truth. And if I put on a mask, what I'm saying is I believe these lying sacks of crap when they say the things that they say.
You mean the politicians?
The politicians and the talking heads on the news who have been, I didn't think they could lie any more than they used to lie in the last few years. They've gotten even worse.
Yep.
And so I basically, I'm not willing to make the statement that I believe them because I do not.
Not willing to make the statement that you believe it would cause either less transmission or more, or if it would make any difference, right?
The only way that wearing a mask will affect the amount of cases that I transmit is if I actually have the disease. If you don't have the disease, you can wear 110 masks or you can wear no masks at all, and you won't give it to anybody because parthenogenesis is magic, and it doesn't happen.
Right. Okay, yeah, I was just curious about, the stance, understanding the whys behind, why you guys are so adamant about it. So
Josh, I want to give Angie a chance to respond to your question. Go ahead, Angie.
Hey, Josh. To start, I'm a mom, and I don't want to teach my kids to just obey the masses. And if someone says, hey, do this, question it. Say, why do you want me to do this? I'm not going to teach my kids to live in fear. I have a little girl, and she doesn't like them. We have immune systems, and we're able to build up an immunity to the disease by being exposed to it. None of us have had it. We haven't worn masks at all. And we are all very healthy. No colds, no flus, no nothing.
Good.
So I think that it's a personal choice. And if you have to say you have a medical exemption in order to get away with not wearing a mask, I think that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I'll weigh in here if you don't mind, Josh.
Right.
So and I want to weigh in here as well on this, and that is that if this were actually a real deadly pandemic, I don't think we would have to be reminded about it constantly and propagandized about it constantly. Early on in the early days, I remember some of our chat room participants kept insisting that this is a pandemic, and I'm like, well, where? I don't see anyone getting sick. And over the last year, I have heard of a few people. I've known a couple people that have actually gotten quote-unquote COVID-19, and they either had no symptoms whatsoever, so they just happened to test as though they had it, or there was one guy in New York City who said he did get sick and then got better. So, and
how many of them are overdiagnosed? That they're just saying it's COVID-19.
A ton of people are getting overdiagnosed. And by the way, from what I saw, it was apparently the same day that Biden was put into office. They reduced the number of required, what do they call it, revolutions of the PCR test. So the higher the number of the revolutions, the more likely they're going to get false positives on the PCR test.
Increasing the likelihood to test positive, right.
Correct. And then they reduced that official, you must do this number of revolutions, recommendation from CDC or whoever it was at the federal government. They sent out this notice saying, okay, you need to reduce the number. So now there aren't as many positive results, and they're starting to report that in the news. Oh, there aren't as many cases. Well, why is that?
So do you think they're trying to make it look like his very presence in office started curing the disease?
Could be, because it couldn't have been the vaccinations. It couldn't.
It's a miracle.
Yeah.
Wow. It's amazing what a child molester in office can do.
Wow.
I mean, if there were actually people getting sick.
I appreciate you guys. I just kind of curious. So thanks for weighing in.
My pleasure, man. I appreciate hearing from you. Thanks for asking. If there were actually people getting sick and, possibly dying or near dying in my life, then yeah, I think a lot of us would take this a whole lot more seriously, and we wouldn't need to have politicians telling us, what the right thing to do is. If politicians are saying a thing, by default, you should not believe them, in my opinion.
If there were a real pandemic going on, if there was something on the level of, say, the 1918 Spanish flu going on, what you would be hearing from the government is, don't panic, everything's going to be okay. They'd be lying about that too. They'd just be lying in the opposite direction.
Yeah, in this case, it seems pretty clear that it's all about obedience. It's all about pushing the line and seeing how far they can get away with and what they can get away with as far as telling people what to do and what level of obedience.
Have you seen anyone wearing the double masks yet? They talked about that. They were
don't
75% more effective.
Generally, once I see a mask on somebody's face, I just kind of stop paying attention to them. And it's like I don't even notice if the girl's pretty anymore. She's got a mask.
Well, you can't see their face, so you can't see their smile
depressing.
and their teeth. And
Yeah.
It's so awful. Let's go to Steve. He's calling from Connecticut. You're on Free Talk Live. Hello, Steve.
Hey, Steve.
Hey, Ian, Angie, and Pope. I got 3 masks. Hang on, one. Okay, now I can talk. I'm alone in my house.
All right.
It's very safe here, very safe. A friend of mine is a doctor, and he said about the PCR test, you were talking about cycles, and how it's, magically they're reducing the amount of cycles. He said to me that he compared it to if you wanted to do a mold test in your house. Okay, we're going to check your basement. We're going to check all the walls. We're going to check. We don't find anything. Okay, let's just keep checking. Check the kitchen. Then we pull the refrigerator out, and back there is a piece of cheese that you dropped at Super Bowl 54, and there's a little piece of mold on it. So now the whole house is infested with mold. Is basically how they were doing these tests.
Wow. Yeah.
So you bring the cycles down, and of course, there's no mold in the house because that little piece of cheese is not going to be found in a mold test.
Yeah, basically the way a doctor was explaining it to us who came here to our crypto meetup, and Steve, if you want to hang on, we'll bring you back here in just a moment, just that the more of these cycles that they had, the more just any kind of noise could trigger a positive result. It wouldn't mean that there was any kind of actual stuff there for it to detect. Just detecting a bunch of noise and saying, oh, positive. More coming up. It's Free Talk Live. And you're invited. If you want to join us here, you can. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. The news is a South Florida grocery store called Oaks Farms Seed to Table. I found the original piece here from NBCnews.com, where there are a lot of upset people apparently because some people in this Florida grocer decided to just go shopping without wearing a mask and also go to work. The employees behind the cash registers also not wearing masks. So it's a really refreshing video where you can actually see people smiling and interacting with one another in a business. With you in the studio tonight, it's Ian.
Nobody.
And Angie.
We will continue here. Your calls and thoughts are certainly welcome. And also want to say thanks to a name that I probably shouldn't try pronouncing on the air, so I'll spell it for you. It's Noblsht. So you can figure out what that stands for. But thank you to Noblsht, who is a Free Talk Live silver amplifier. That person is contributing $5 a month to the AMP program over at amp.freetalklive.com. That helps us advertise, market, and promote Free Talk Live. Helps us get on more radio stations around the country. So if you like what we do here and you appreciate the message that we bring, then please get behind us like that person did over at amp.freetalklive.com. That's ampamp.freetalklive.com. We're going to go back to your calls and thoughts. Steve is still on the line here with us in Connecticut. Steve, you're back on Free Talk Live.
All right, it's great to be here. I know you guys were talking about the mask. This thing in Florida is terrific. I mean, it's the old normal, if you can believe that there is such an old normal. It's really unbelievable. Now, I work in the television industry, and we have people on television sets that are called production assistants, and they're usually the lowest paid person next to the intern on the set. So they're production assistants, $100 a day person. Well, now these production assistants are now called COVID compliance officers. Now, you want to talk about turning someone into a Karen. Oh.
Yeah, they just gave this person power over everyone coming onto the set.
It is amazing. The average person who used to just like be a wallflower is now, they got their chest out. They're saying, put your mask on, wash your hands. It is a power trip. And you can imagine if you amplify this to the federal government level, you can see where Fauci is.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
You know, it really is unbelievable. But I mean, I've been shopping. I go shopping in anywhere, like post office, wherever. And I know the post office is a federal building, which I guess I could be arrested for a federal crime if I don't wear a mask at a post office. But I've been shopping for the whole year since this whole thing happened without a mask. I should be dead, I guess. But the thing is, when you go into a supermarket or anywhere you're shopping, you have to walk in there like you own the place. If you are the least bit timid, the employee, the clerk will spot you and try to one-up you.
That's such a true statement. I have felt that many times, that if you go in there with confidence, they don't say a lot and they greet you and they say, how are you? But if you are shy,
or they ignore you.
Exactly. Yeah. And if you do any other thing, then they definitely come after you.
Right. And if they try to confront you, which they have to me before, I'll say, listen, do you want to call the police or do you want me to call the police? And they're not expecting the blowback. And they quake and they leave you alone most of the time. I've had one guy who said, I'm going to call the police. I said, well, go right ahead. I'll wait right here. And the police showed up. They said, there's no problem here. You're free to go.
I'm waiting for somebody to ask me what my medical exemption is.
Hasn't happened yet, huh?
It hasn't happened yet. My answer is going to be rage.
In Connecticut, they've King Ned, our governor, Ned Lamont, has imposed a $100 fine if you're not wearing a mask. I can't seem to get that $100 fine to save my life, because if I got it, I would do a GoFundMe or whatever and try to turn it into $100,000 and put it towards the Liberty Movement.
That'd be sweet. Yeah, they haven't been handing them out here either, from what I understand, even though the Walmart did call the cops on your son, Angie. He did tell them he had a medical exemption, and they went away at that point. So, if you do have the confidence, you're right. Most of the time, they're not going to target you, although it does seem that people are more willing to target women. I mean, Angie, by no means do I think you come across as someone who's not confident, but you were telling us, I think, off the air that you have felt like you've been targeted more often.
I have, for sure.
And then you now started open carrying a gun, and that's changed things.
It has. People are very polite. They are very kind.
An armed society is a polite
their tone
society.
Is completely different when they approach me and they notice that. They're like, oh, do you have a mask? They're very kind.
Well, absolutely. I mean, when I go shopping, I'm usually open carrying, and I always wear a baseball hat and sunglasses. Sunglasses really put a little bit of a barrier between you and someone who's confronting you. It really works. So wear your sunglasses, open carry when you can, and that usually de-escalates the Karens and the clerks from trying to rat on you. Also,
unfortunately, we're going to have
Pro tip, if you write down on a piece of paper or a 3x5 card, call the police and have that ready, because you don't want to talk to someone who's confronting you, because that's what you would be considered escalation. So if someone is yapping at you, you don't talk back to them. You just have a piece of paper that says call the police.
Well, I have no problem talking back to people on this, and I am as kind as I can be. I don't want to be nasty about it. I don't want to ruin somebody's day or whatever. I just want to be left alone. And
I never tell people to call the police, because they're going to show up and shoot a dog one day.
Yeah, I don't want to bring the police in, and most of the time they're not going to. They're going to let you go in, and if they really don't want me in their store, then they'll say that.
And you just don't shop there.
Yeah, and they'll say, no, we don't accept medical exemptions.
Right.
We don't want your kind around here. And then I will go ahead and exit the premises.
I have done that,
But which I've never had to do, with the exception of the local shipping shack here in town, where they didn't tell me they wouldn't accept a medical exemption, but they were so adamant about it, and I've been a customer of theirs for a long time. I respected their request. But your typical corporate store, they're going to have to be real clear with me that they don't want my kind around there before before I take an exit.
Right. And I also have that nice lanyard, the laminated lanyard, and that's another good one to fool the store clerk. Like, these aren't the droids you're looking for. You just show them the no mask exemption. They go, oh, you have a medical exemption. I'm sorry. Sometimes that works.
Most of the time, they just want to hear you say it. That you don't have to have a permission slip or a card or anything like that. It's just that they've been instructed to do this as part of their job. Now, you're right. Some of them get off on it. There's no doubt that there's going to be the little Hitlers out there that are trying to force the COVID down people's throats or whatever. But most of the time, they just want you to say the password. They want you to say medical exemption, and then boom, hands off, they're gone.
Wasn't it if you say that, then the store or the person can't get fined? Because
that's true in Keene.
Yeah,
okay.
It's a CYOA thing a lot of the time.
Steve, thanks for the call tonight. Appreciate your experience and the expertise. The number here is 603-283-6160. Let's go to Kirby in Indianapolis. You're on Free Talk Live, Kirby.
Hey, what's up, folks?
Hey.
Kirby.
I went to a doctor's appointment at the hospital 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I walked in. Guy says, hey, you got to have on a mask. Mind you, I'm wearing a neck gaiter pulled up to just below my eyeball. I'm like, I'm wearing a mask. He's like, it's got to be a hospital mask.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, are you kidding me? So I take the mask. I turn to walk away. He stops me and tells me I have to use hand sanitizer.
Oh my gosh!
As well, before I can.
You must go through all of the rituals. You must pass through all of the requirements, or else.
It's like trying to infect somebody with OCD.
Yeah. Why can't you just be like the rest of us, Kirby?
Because my mother raised me to question everything somebody told me.
Smart woman.
Yep. Good answer.
There are a lot of people who received that lesson as a young person, and they don't seem like they really held on to it. Question authority.
The world beat it out of them.
Kirby, it sounds like you got more to say on that story. Stand by. We'll bring it back here in just a moment. 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Yeah, when they told you to question authority, they didn't really mean it, apparently, because most people, they don't. There's more coming up here. You
bet
can
his
share
mom meant it.
Your thoughts. It's Free Talk Live. It's Free Talk Live. The number is 603-283-6160. If you want to join us here, you can. The number again, 603-283-6160. In the studio tonight, it's Ian.
Nobody.
And Angie.
Of course, you can bring up whatever you want to discuss. And we're going to continue with more of your calls and thoughts. The Florida grocer, Oaks Farm Seed to Table. It's a store in Naples, Florida. Looks like a nice little store. There's some video footage that came out. No, looks wonderful. And customers are happy, employees are happy, and not a single person in the store was wearing a mask. And that's what
I would shop there.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, I'd definitely shop there. I'm tempted to drive down and pick up some ground beef or something.
Let's go.
Any place that's got the huevos to actually have a policy that allows their employees to have a medical exemption, I think is amazing. We don't see that very often at all up here in New Hampshire, the so-called live free or die state. So if you want to comment, you're welcome to join us here at 603-283-6160. Let's go to Kirby, or back to Kirby in Indiana. You were telling us a story, I think, Kirby. You were in a hospital, or you'd gone to a hospital. The man up front demanded that you put a medical mask on instead of the neck gaiter, as you described, that you were wearing. And then further, as you were about to walk away, demanded that you use hand sanitizer. And then go ahead with your story.
Yeah, I just looked at him at that point and turned around and kept on going, went up to my appointment
Nice.
and left. And what Angie said is real accurate. I open carry everywhere I go, except hospitals and places like that. But if you're open carrying, people are a lot less apt to walk up and say something snappy to you. And when they do, if you just say, I'm exempt, they walk away and leave you alone because they don't want any parts of this.
And I did not open carry for a while, and I would go with my husband who open carried, and I noticed how kind they were to him, and I was like, wow, they're just so nice to you and nice to me when I'm with you. And he said, Angie, it's because I'm open carrying, and I was like, I need to do that.
And now you are here at the show. Looks great.
An armed society is a polite society.
It's
That
true.
was Robert Heinlein wrote that, and absolutely right.
Kirby, more that you wanted to share? Go ahead.
No, that was pretty much it. Just that I really love your guys' show. Thank you, Nobody, and you know why I say that. And as I told Nobody earlier, when I first heard you guys, I was a statist. I was angry at the state and didn't realize I was being a statist. I thought I was had broken away from it. I actually see the difference now, and I try to gently coax people away from it. But when you're walking around and I see people wearing face shields and masks, people are so sheepalized that they don't see the male bovine feces in front of them.
Yeah, it really is
truth.
depressing out there. Thank you, Kirby, for the call tonight. I appreciate it. I really would love to see, a survey done anonymously where people could give their true feelings out. We could find out what percentage of the masked populace out there actually wants to wear these things versus what percentage of them are doing it out of whatever sense of expectation that they have as far as what their neighbors will think about them. They don't want to offend people, so they're doing it for that reason. And what percentage of them are doing it simply because there's a sign on the door, and so they're just, mindlessly following the sign, thinking that that's actually what the business owner wants, whereas in point of fact, most of the business owners are just putting a sign up because they've been told to, not because they actually want to.
I was in Cumbies the other night, and I always talk to the cashier a little bit when I go in. Cumberland Farms convenience store. And so the...
and you're a regular at this place.
Yeah, I'm a regular, and so and I talk to this cashier regularly, and I mentioned to him something about how there were some places this year that had 0 flu fatalities, and that was sui generis, one of a kind. They had never had a year with no flu deaths before. And this guy who worked for the city was behind me in line. And as I went out, he kind of followed me, and I was like, "Oh, this is going to be interesting." And he gets up, he takes he takes his mask off, and he's just like, "Yeah, I got to wear this thing because I work for the city." But that kid didn't know what you meant. I knew what you meant.
Interesting. Was he getting ready to go to work? Was this a late night visit or something like that?
It was early morning visit. I think he was on his way to work.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But I won't say who it was because, they will very happily fire you for your politics these days.
They sure will.
Yeah, no. The openness with which both the Democratic political establishment and the Democratic politicians are saying, we just need to get all Republicans any way we can, do them any harm we can. I've never seen anything like that in America. It's I don't understand how the country is expected. I mean, unless they're planning on actually killing all of the Republicans, which is going to be hard because moron Democrats, if you didn't notice, they're armed and you're not.
Yeah, a lot more of them have guns for sure.
So, but unless they're planning on killing them all, I don't understand how they expect the country to hold together with half of the country, with targets painted on their backs.
Well, I mean, the thing is, most of the Republicans are pretty obedient. I mean, they're going to quietly go along to get along and put up with whatever stupid stuff comes down the pike from the federal government until it's their turn to take it back over and shove their stuff down the throats of the Democrats. And so, the only way that's going to change is if enough of them get fed up enough to demand secession and to demand independence and to demand it right away. But the cycle just seems to continue. There's usually a little push for secession at the end of every election season, and then it just dissipates. And then everybody just plans for the next election and hopes that they can take back the hall of power. It just keeps going.
I don't think they're going to tolerate another 4 years of the kind of crap they took for the last 4 years.
You don't think? Things seem to have calmed down
I
since.
don't think so.
It's been almost a month since the 6th when people did the quote-unquote insurrection, the unauthorized
you mean with
visit.
the unauthorized tour?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that what we're calling it?
Yeah, they did an unauthorized tour. They took some selfies.
Well,
Took some gear.
Since then, the what do they call them? The group the group of the guys that wears the yellow and the black, Proud Boys. The Proud Boys. One of their leaders has been targeted and outed as a snitch, outed as a government informant. They've arrested a couple of the other Proud Boys guys, and they're pressing charges, of course, against the people who did the unauthorized tour. So, I mean, the state's cracking down on the, quote unquote insurrectionists. What's the next step going to be?
That's not going to make them more content.
No, that's true.
It might make them more discreet.
But their leader has, Donald Trump has sort of disappeared from public view. I went the other day just to see, where does he? Did he go ahead and get an account on some other social media site? Did he launch his own social media site? And I couldn't find a way to find out what Donald Trump is saying.
When was he last heard from?
Right when he got took off Twitter.
Yeah,
which was early January.
And I remember saying
mid-January.
I remember saying at the time that if that video is a deep fake, they're gonna have to kill him. You gotta wonder if he's alive.
I mean, I'm pretty sure he's alive, but
I don't know. It would be the easiest way to keep him quiet. He doesn't seem like somebody who's going to stay quiet for a long. He doesn't seem like a great conjurer either.
He can hire enough people to conjure up something.
Yeah, maybe, but he'd still have time to run his mouth.
Yes.
I mean, what stops Donald Trump from running his mouth? We haven't found that yet. Thing.
Yeah, apparently he hasn't been. Maybe no one suggested that he could just run his own website because he's not. He has not. He could launch his own Mastodon site if he wanted to. He could have DonaldTrump.com or whatever.
I bet it would be the biggest Mastodon site in the world.
They'd have to top Gab, but yeah, they would have a good chance of doing that, I think.
I wonder if he has a Gab account.
What is Gab?
No, I don't think so. Gab's like a kind of a right-wing Twitter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Basically.
I mean, right-wing to the point where I went on there a few times. I have a Gab account. I went there a few times, and I was just like, yeah, I got no time for these people.
603-283-6160 is the number that will allow you to join us here. You can bring up anything that you want. On the way, apparently, you remember that guy from the Parkland shooting? David Hogg? He was like 17 at the time.
Boss Hogg!
Yeah, he's back in the news. He is getting ready to launch a pillow company to go up against My Pillow.
Oh.
Seriously?
Apparently. 603-283-6160. This is Free Talk Live.
Free Talk Live.
It is Free Talk Live. We're kicking off the second hour of the program. You can bring up what you want here. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. In the studio tonight, you've got Ian.
Nobody.
And Angie.
We'll continue with more of your calls and thoughts. If you're just tuning in, there's a Florida grocery store called Oaks Farm Seed to Table Market in Naples, Florida, and that is near the Fort Myers region, so the west coast of Florida. And this particular location has been outed by NBC News on the Today Show, where they posted a 15-second video of the checkouts, where it seems like nearly every customer... now that I look closer, I can see a man standing in the background with a mask on, but in the foreground, every customer at each cash register, and there's at least 5 cash registers that the cameraman goes by, and they're all without masks, including the cashiers.
And they're smiling. They're happy.
Smiling at each other, and it's like, wow.
Wow, humans can still smile?
Great.
Yeah.
That's neat.
It's really refreshing to see this video, but a lot of people are upset about it, and that has resulted, of course, in people calling in about about the just masks in general. And you're welcome to share your thoughts, your stories, your experiences. Let's go to Tia. She's a podcast listener, so not listening live, but listens later on via our podcast, which you can download and subscribe to over at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com. Tia, in Oregon, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hi.
Hey, Tia. What's on your mind?
Well, I was just calling because I live in a little town in Oregon, and it's not really been too affected by the masks until literally overnight from Monday to Tuesday, and the rules just changed, and now I can't go even to get groceries without wearing a mask.
Really?
And they have signs at the checkouts where they say that you will not be checked out. And my husband got kicked out of the store we usually go to, and we haven't had a problem up until Tuesday.
So what are the rules that changed?
Well, a lot of people weren't wearing masks. I mean, not a lot, but, you'd see a couple other people not wearing one. And then all of a sudden they changed the signs, and they are just refusing to serve anybody that won't wear one.
So is this just this one grocery store?
Well, if I can't...
Was it just the
What was that?
Was it just this one grocery store, or did something change at the state level or the city?
No, it must have been at the state level, because it's like every grocery store that I usually go to and haven't had a problem.
Now, are you able to say that you have a medical exemption? Have you tried that?
Oh, yeah. Well, my husband tried that one, too, and the Walmart greeter demanded to see his papers. And since he didn't have his papers, they refused entry.
Wow.
So what are you doing now? Are you shopping online, or are you shopping at
No, well, I decided if I can't show my mouth and I have to wear a mask, I'm just going to cover my entire head.
I love it.
So I put on a ski mask and black sunglasses.
Good for
you. A handkerchief over my face, and I wrote slave on a white tank top. And that's what I'm wearing to do my shopping now.
That's awesome. So when you say a ski mask, do you mean like a balaclava where there's only two little slits for the eyes or two holes for the eyes and then maybe for the mouth?
Yeah, but I put sunglasses over so you can't see my eyes. And then wore a handkerchief over my mouth too.
That's amazing.
You're gonna you've given me an idea now. If it ever gets that bad here, I'm getting a burqa.
I thought of that. I thought out some scarves, but next time I'm just going to put a thong on my face and walk around with underwear on my head.
Yeah,
I think I'll probably get the same reaction as I did with the slave shirt.
Amazing.
Say you're married?
She's his husband, yeah.
Yeah, and my husband wears a diaper on his face now. He put rope around it, and that's what he wears as a mask.
Wow, that's awesome. I appreciate the creativity. Thank you for sharing that story, Tia. Thank you for the call tonight. I appreciate that.
I thought I was being cute with the World War I gas mask, but wow, she
took that to another level. That's amazing. And of course, we got a co-host, Richie Rich, on Sunday that has what he calls his full compliance mask, where he bought a $200 bulletproof mask.
Oh my gosh.
And it's just the creepiest looking thing. It's something you'd see in a horror slasher film kind of mask. And it covers it like a balaclava does. It only has just slits for eyes, and then I think there might be some nostrils or maybe a mouth slit or whatever, but that's it. There's no, you can't see any of his face.
He has mouth rings and jewelry, right?
I think he does. Yeah.
I wonder how that affects with people who wear masks around their mouths and around their earrings, if they get irritated or it bothers them.
I don't know. I would be watching extra hard for infection near those.
Well, I know that some people are getting irritation just with normal mouths, just because they have this thing over their mouth all day long if they're at a job or something like that. And there's, you're not supposed to cover your mouth constantly. So there's a lot of heat that builds up there. There's a lot of moisture that builds up, and there's a lot of chafing to some extent because it's always, people are constantly readjusting.
They're moving it and touching it.
When I had, I know that when I had the mask on when I went on the airlines recently, it was quite uncomfortable on my ears where the band is behind
I've heard that too,
there.
yeah.
And, I didn't even wear mine for very long at all. Only the very bare minimum of being on the flight.
Didn't they say that if you're eating or drinking on the flight that you don't have to have it?
They want you to put the mask back on between bites. They actually have, at least on Delta, they had a notice that went out about that. Now, in my case, the flight that I went on first, I was on two legs. So the first part.
Can you imagine how many stewardesses would it take to enforce that? They'd have to have one standing over every shoulder.
Well, someone will probably snitch on you if they're observing you.
Well, that's okay. Let them come and yell at me if you want to.
The problem is they may actually take the plane down, which they have done. They've actually taken the plane down.
That would be freaking hilarious.
Didn't they do it for a 2-year-old one time?
Yes, more than once.
Yeah, he wouldn't keep the mask on?
Yeah, more than one family has been ejected from various different airlines over this, and they will ban you from flying them in the future. So what I did was on my first flight, it was relatively packed. Almost every seat was actually full on this flight. I had my nose out the entire time, even though they said you're not supposed to. No one said anything to me about it. And just to add to, my, I guess, my inability to be contacted about this, I put like a sleep mask on as well. So I had the face mask on, my nose sticking out, and then I had a sleep mask on, and I was just trying to catch some shut eye, and no one said a thing to me about that. So I was able to breathe the entire time on that flight. On the second flight, it was mostly empty, and there was no one else in my row or whatever, so I just basically had the mask off the entire time. And then I would have a bottle of water and I'd take a swig from it whenever a flight attendant would walk by. And they didn't say anything to me there either. And then in the airport, I had the mask off the entire time with a bottle of water and no one said anything. So it was relatively easy to do the bare minimum and not even really comply with what they were saying. But man, it was very uncomfortable just generally and not something that I want to do.
My 10-year-old thinks it's fun. He's like, hey, can I put this mask on? I'm like, why?
Why is it fun?
I don't know. He thinks it's so cool because we don't wear them. And so
he's being bad to you.
Yeah, it's like he's like puts it on. He's like, what do you think? Think they'll know who I am? I'm like, you've lost your mind. And he'll put it on to go into places just for the fun of it at this point.
Is it because it gets to you, or does he think he's getting to you?
No. We don't wear them, and so he thinks it's cool. He's like, he's never really worn one until he found one in the car because I took Mikey to get his driver's license.
Why is it cool?
I have no idea.
Does he think obedience is cool?
Well, he said it's really soft, Mom. It kind of feels like panties. And I was
okay.
I was like, yep, it does, doesn't it? That's really soft, Shiloh.
Wow.
Whose drawers has he been going through at home?
Vaccinate
he does
your
laundry.
children.
Yeah. He does laundry.
I see. Okay, so he knows what that.
He does. Yeah.
Vaccinate your children. Who cares if they end up artistic? It doesn't mean they're gay.
603-283-6160. The owner of the grocery store in Florida, Alfie Oakes, couldn't be reached for comment, but he did tell NBC's Today Show that he knows masks do not work and he doesn't believe the coronavirus has killed hundreds of thousands of people in the United States, saying, quote, that's total hogwash. Why don't we shut down the world because of heart attacks? Why don't we lock down cities because of heart attacks, he says. Well, I don't know if heart attacks is the best example, but how about the flu? We never locked down anyone over the flu, and you can share your thoughts with us here tonight.
How about TB?
There you go. There's over 1 million people killed by that every year. There's a little bit more here that I wanted to share about this grocery store, Oaks Farm Seed to Table Market in Naples, Florida, about 42 miles south of Fort Myers. They are stirring up some controversy just by having an NBC News reporter shooting a 15-second video inside the store showing people with no masks on. The store's owner told NBC's Today that he doesn't think masks work, and he doesn't believe that the coronavirus has killed hundreds of thousands of people in the United States. Some people theorize that it's actually been the flu that has been killing these people.
Are they even testing people for the flu now?
Well, that's the thing. The flu numbers are way, way, way down compared to what they normally are. And so the official story is that, the flu numbers are down because people are wearing masks and social distancing. But on the other hand, they're also claiming that not enough people are wearing masks and social distancing, so they need to wear more masks, and we need to do more social distancing. So which one is it?
Apparently they should be doing the masky social distancing thing when the flu's big and, maybe just blowing it off because it doesn't seem when the COVID's big because doesn't seem to be doing anything about that.
So,
or you could just, get with reality, which is reality is if you've tested positive for COVID, or if you have a runny nose and you get shot in the head, they're going to go, oh, he's got a little snot running down his nose. I suspect he has COVID. I'm going to put COVID down as the cause of death.
Now, even though the county in wherever Naples is, whatever county that is, has a mask mandate in place.
It's Naples County.
Is it Naples County? Oaks' store has a sign out front that says customers don't have to wear one if they have a medical condition. The actual text from the sign is, quote, "Those in our lovely government have ordered all persons entering indoor facilities to wear a mask. If you have a medical condition that prevents you from wearing a mask, you are exempt from this order. Due to HIPAA and the Fourth Amendment, we cannot legally ask you about your medical condition. Therefore, if we see you without a mask, we will assume you have a medical condition, and we will welcome you inside to support our business."
I love it. I think that's great.
This guy rocks.
Yeah.
This guy rocks. If they put him out of business, he definitely needs to come up to New Hampshire.
More people need to have this particular perspective, and more people need to have signs. If you're a business owner out there and you are against all this nonsense, then you should be doing more creative signage like this, because there's a lot of people who just put up a masks required sign because they believe that they have to. They believe that they have to communicate this in the sort of official sounding way to people. And I got to say, I like what this guy did. And also there was another business that Bonnie and I went to over the weekend. There's an arcade called Fun Spot here in New Hampshire. Have you ever? You're nodding your head, Angie.
We have not been there, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so it is supposedly the world's largest arcade now. Some people dispute that claim, but regardless, it is a very large place with a bunch of, really
it's
classic.
like 3 floors, right?
3 floors, and they're expansive. They're fairly large, and so they got everything from, air hockey, skee ball, that kind of stuff, all the way on up to old school arcade games going back even further than Pong. And these are operating.
There were things before Pong?
Believe it or not, yeah. There actually were some arcade games before Pong. So they go all the way back there at this particular location. And so while I was there, I took a photograph of one of the signs that has a picture of Sununu. Now, that's the governor here in Florida. It's got his photograph on it. And it says,
our cowardly governor.
It says, per Governor Sununu's Emergency Order 74, you must wear a mask unless you have a medical condition preventing you from doing so. And all of that's in the same bold black font. So it's not like it just says you must wear a mask and then in small print. Mm-hmm. It's all the same big bold font. So it lets people know that there is an exemption here. And a lot of people don't even know that because they just rely on what other people say and what the news media says. And they don't talk about the exemptions.
And they don't want confrontation.
That's true, too.
People are afraid of confrontation. And, you should have some confrontation in your life. That's how you grow backbone.
Right.
These people are going to be walking around bent over backwards with no immune system because they've let their backbones and their immune systems atrophy.
It's sad. So the rest of the sign, beneath, again, big block lettering, as I said, then Sununu's photo. Then beneath that in smaller text, it says, "We will not refuse service to any of our guests who decline to wear a mask or cloth face covering because of medical or mental or developmental issue or difficulty breathing. And they shall not be required to produce documentation or other evidence verifying the condition." So basically saying, if you've got a medical condition, you don't have to wear a mask, and we're never going to say anything to you about it if you aren't wearing a mask.
Good. They enjoy being in business. They like their customers.
Yeah, and inside the business, there were people that were wearing masks, which I found strange. Again, I think it's just mass obedience here, because if you really were afraid of COVID, you wouldn't go to an arcade
where you're touching things
and constantly be sharing, consoles, joysticks, buttons with other people who are in the very same place.
Well, the thing is, if you consider how stupid the average person is and then consider that a full half of them is stupider than that, some people would.
I see what you're saying. But regardless, it was refreshing because even some of the staff there was not wearing masks.
Oh, that's excellent, because I haven't seen that lately. Most people always have masks on.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, why wouldn't Why wouldn't the staff be able to have a medical exemption as well? Are you saying that people who have medical issues can no longer have jobs?
Yeah, you can't work.
Yeah, that would actually be a violation of the Americans with Disabilities Act, which does say you have to make reasonable accommodations.
Now, when we go places, Michael will tell people, the register and server, he'll say, you do not have to wear that. And a lot of them are like, oh, thank you. That's great. Yeah, and they'll take it off, and so they'll move it. He's really quick to. There was a guy walking into the local store, and you get that look. People are like, oh, I forgot my mask, and they turn around and have to go back. And he had just gotten gas and yelled out the door. He said, they won't care if you go in without that. And he said, they won't. And he was like, no, you can go in without the mask there, and they'll be fine. He was like, yeah, they've always been great, but he still went and got his mask out of his truck.
Wow. Just too afraid.
Well, yeah.
Didn't want to find out.
No, and he was a big guy. I mean, he was,
Some people are into the mask thing. I don't know what it is, but
no, I mean, that was clearly a situation where somebody was afraid of what other people were going to think, even though he was being encouraged to just go ahead.
Yep.
Somebody else knew, they'd been there before. He was just too afraid of having the controversy or having someone see him doing it. And that's what we're dealing with here, and it's really sad. 603-283-6160 is the number here. If you want to join us, you can do that. And now apparently state government bureaucrats here in New Hampshire are telling business owners to call the cops if customers won't put a mask on.
I think we should call them.
Call the cops?
No, call the officials.
They're probably not working right now. 603-283-6160. This is Free Talk Live. Is Free Talk Live. The number here is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. In the studio tonight, you've got Ian.
Nobody.
And Angie.
And you're invited here. If you want to join us, you can take control of the airwaves and bring up anything you want. We do have our social media platform now that we've launched about 3 weeks ago now, I think at this point, nearing 200 users, and you're welcome to jump on board over there. If you're ready to get away from big tech and get off the ugly old social media sites like Twitter and Facebook, what our social media site does is basically does the same thing Twitter does, meaning it allows you to make a post. It allows you to use more characters than Twitter does. And you can, share the posts that others make. You can respond to them. You can tag people. Basically the same functionality that Twitter has. It's not Twitter. It's run on a private server that we control and no one else does.
So you're not sharing our information.
That's correct.
And Trump, if you're out there and you really need to tweet, just sign on. We'll tolerate you.
Yeah, we'll make room. We'll make room for you.
Just for giggles.
I mean, generally, it's probably going to be a pretty libertarian server, but there's not an actual hard rule that says somebody who disagrees with us can't sign up.
And what is it? What's the
social.freetalklive.com. So if you go to social.freetalklive.com, you can get signed up there. And the really cool thing about it, one of the really cool things, is there's multiple apps. So normally like with Facebook, you get the Facebook app and that's it. You don't get to choose anything else. Here, you get to choose between, as many as like several apps from which you can use. You can just use the website like normal if you want to, or if you want to download an app for your phone or for your computer, then you can do that. And you can try different ones out and see which one you like the best.
Social.freetalklive.com.
That's right. Social.freetalklive.com. Let's go to Son of Ben. He's calling us from Tennessee. Son of Ben, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hey, guys. Hey. And, I'm calling from Tennessee, but a big shout-out to all my people on Exit 12 in New London, New Hampshire.
Hey, right on. Welcome.
Yeah, thanks. Hey, I'm not really taking issue so much. I'm all about some personal liberties. And just because, you don't have to wear a mask, I just want to encourage everybody to wear a mask. It's
Why?
not a sign of fear. Excuse me?
Why? It seems like a sign of obedience to me.
Oh, I understand that. And have you ever done a tracheostomy on anyone trying to recover from COVID?
No, I have not.
So I'll tell you, do that a few times, and you'll understand why it's important to do everything you can to prevent the spread of this. And I'm not here to argue for or against the efficacy of masks. Is it worse than
doing a tracheotomy on somebody who's dying of the flu, or?
Well, I'm just saying, are you a medical professional?
I'm not.
He asked you a question.
That's why I'm asking you.
Thankfully, in this conversation, it shows. Because these people die horrifying.
Well, yes, I've certainly never done a tracheotomy, but I'd love to have an answer to that. Is it worse than a tracheotomy?
What was your question?
I asked if it was worse than a tracheotomy on someone with some other condition. I was wondering how the tracheotomy was different.
but the difference is that I've never done this many trachs on people in my entire life, and I've never done a single trach on someone recovering from the flu. Nor has anything with the flu ever packed our ICUs out with people who are on ventilators.
Do you find that the people that you're treating have underlying conditions? Are they smokers? Are they drinkers? Do they have health problems? Are they obese, diabetics, anything like that?
Well, I would love to say, just like I think, anytime we hear somebody with cancer, we're like, oh, were they a smoker? Yeah, they were a smoker. It makes us feel better because we like to blame it on the smoking. But unfortunately, a lot of these people have no more underlying conditions than your average American. Now, does your average American have an average underlying health condition? Probably.
Yeah, the average American's probably overweight.
Yep.
Yes.
And they probably don't have a very good diet. You are a medical professional, and I can appreciate that, but I've actually consulted with medical professionals. In fact, more than one doctor who's told me that they think all this is a bunch of bunk.
Well, I would urge you not to go back to that physician.
There's more than one of them, actually.
I would urge you. Well,
in fact, there are thousands of physicians who signed the Great Barrington Declaration to basically say the same thing, and that they're more concerned with the loss of civil liberties and freedoms than whatever tiny little risk there is from this.
I would encourage anyone who believes that to go to their local hospital and don't bother wearing a mask and ask if you can go walk around on their COVID unit or in their ICU. And I'm sure they'll let you do that. Of course, they won't, but I'd encourage you just as a nice show and tell to do that. And you can go tell those families that they're suffering, their family members suffering from a great pandemic.
So
and see what kind of response you get from that.
What have you been seeing with suicide? Have you been seeing a lot of suicides lately, a lot of overdoses, more than usual?
No.
Really?
No. Now, I have not.
Well, if you've killed yourself, you're not going to make it into the emergency room.
You got that right.
Yeah. So they wouldn't see the suicides at the hospital.
Well, you may well see him going by to the morgue, and you can certainly see suicides who failed at the hospital.
He probably wouldn't see a lot of that.
Man, that's pretty morbid, man. Yeah. But I have seen that, and that's pretty morbid as well.
What do you mean that's pretty morbid? It's a valid question because we know that a lot of people are considering killing themselves and are doing drug overdoses because they hate their lives now because they can't actually have contact with other human beings. Does that mean nothing to you?
They can't pay their bills?
Yeah.
I'm failing to understand why I can't have a contact with another human being yet also be cognizant of a pandemic that's going on. I have no problem interacting with people from a reasonable distance wearing a mask. It's just
that's a problem because people need contact, actual human contact, being able to touch, to hug, to kiss, to show affection for another human being. Standing 6 feet away doesn't count as human contact. That's like some sort of crazy dystopian viewpoint, sir.
What doesn't count as human contact?
I said standing 6 feet away from somebody and waving at them doesn't count as human contact.
Look, I've hugged my mother numerous times, wearing a mask, and it's not that difficult.
Oh, well, that's good. There are some people whose family members won't allow them to.
Go out and hug. I have no need to go out and hug like strangers. I think we can all go out and safely hug our family members.
Well, good for you. I'm glad that you support hugging family members because some people are living in families where they will not allow themselves to be hugged because they've been scared to death by propaganda and people like you, son of Ben, who are out there scaring people.
We have a computer business, and we go into homes, Michael does, and he has given older customers hugs or handshakes, and they almost tear up.
Aww.
They're like, that's the first human contact I've had in
because their own family won't do it.
Yeah, and it's pretty sad. I mean, and they're so happy that he doesn't mind giving them a hug.
And thank you, son of Ben, for the call here tonight. Look, I mean, in this video that we were looking at earlier from Florida of the people in the grocery store that were not wearing masks, the majority of the people in this video, I would say, are over the age of 65, if not over the age of 70. So there were multiple people who are unmasked in the elderly age range who obviously are willing to take the risk of whatever horrifying tracheotomy or whatever might befall them just so they can have that human contact because to them, obviously, the risk is worth it.
Yep.
And for a lot of us, I think the risk is worth it. Is contracting COVID potentially dangerous? Yeah, it is, but not very. We've seen the survival rates are absolutely incredible on this thing. It's not like you're likely to die if you're
one
even
out of
in
200 dies.
Yeah, and that's, if you're in decent shape, you have almost no chance of dying. So, all the fear
hobbies
mongering.
more dangerous than that.
I'm sorry that you have to do more work because of your job, but it's not like you don't get paid.
That's exactly
for
right.
being a nurse or being a doctor or, tracheotomy expert or whatever it is that you do.
And I don't think that our local hospital is overrun. I don't think that that's a problem here.
No, I mean, I haven't seen any evidence of overrun hospitals. I know that there were huge layoffs at the beginning of this mess among hospital staffs.
That's because they weren't allowing people to do elective surgeries and things like that.
And I know that a lot of people have died because they didn't get the surgery they needed because... but then I've also seen people going into hospitals and filming empty hospitals, empty corridors, empty wards. Nobody's running around. If people were dying all over the place in these hospitals, there would be people running around. There would be crash carts. There would be body bags. There would be bodies.
They certainly wouldn't have time to make TikTok videos.
They wouldn't have nearly as much time to make TikTok
Not just
videos.
like some quick 15-second, we just recorded a video, but choreographed dance routines. I mean, that's something you got to practice. You don't just hit the stage and get choreography right the first time. 603-283-6160. You can join us here. This is Free Talk Live. Free Talk Live. Open phones if you want to join us here. 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. In the studio here tonight, you've got Ian.
Nobody.
And Angie.
So we've been talking about the mask issue here tonight, and it's been a lot of the topics we've been covering here on Free Talk Live over the last year, and I've been trying to stay away from it for a while, but the stories are just getting too crazy, and so we needed to talk about it again. In this case, there was actually a little bit of good news to start the show out, which is that a store in Florida, a grocery store, is not requiring customers to wear masks. In fact, they've got a sign up out front that specifically clarifies for people that you cannot wear a mask if you have a medical exemption, and further, the store will not ask you any questions about it. So just letting their customers know that, hey, it's safe to take that thing off here. If that's what we're not going to bug you.
Yep.
Because that's what a lot of people are worried about. Is they're worried about that confrontation. They don't have either they don't want it at all, or they just don't have time for it. They don't want to deal with it, or whatever their reasons. They don't want that to happen. So this store is letting them know it's okay. We're not going to hassle you. And as a result, they've got a bunch of people without masks on in their store. And it's amazing. And a lot of business owners, unfortunately, are afraid to take this stance because, and I won't say who it was, but we were having a conversation with a business owner, a couple of business owners like this today, that were saying that they are against the masks. They're against wearing masks. They think it's stupid. But at the same time, they know that a lot of their customers are wearing masks, and they don't want to offend their potential customer base. They don't want to have whatever.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, there's no reason to bust somebody's balls for wearing a mask.
No, of course not.
I mean, if somebody wants to wear a mask, let them be.
But the issue was the signage, meaning that they didn't want to have signage that could be, could tweak or trigger the people who are the mask people. They didn't want to put I read you the signage from this grocery store, right?
Yeah.
Which made it pretty clear that they weren't saying we don't welcome mask people, but they were saying if you don't have a mask, you're welcome. And so having signage like that out would disturb certain business owners who are against masks, but they just don't want their customers to think that they're against masks.
Well, the thing is, I mean, to me, it's kind of like, smoking and non-smoking sections in restaurants. Now, back in the day when there actually were smoking sections in restaurants, there were laws that limited how big they could be. They could only be like 40% of the floor space of the restaurant. And that way, in order to serve all the smokers, every restaurant pretty much had a smoking area. And what I thought would be much better would be if they got rid of that limit on the size of the smoking area, and then you can have some restaurants that are wholly smoking.
Sure.
And you can have some restaurants that are wholly non-smoking, and they'll probably be about proportional to what the customers want. Because
it didn't work out that way, though.
That's what would maximize.
Instead, they shoved non-smoking down everyone's throats and forced businesses.
Yeah. And so, and this is how the Karens think. They think, if you're getting divorced from one of these people, they'd be like, well, I've got a proposal for a settlement, and I think it's very fair. I get everything. And you get nothing.
Sounds accurate.
And that's not how any of this works.
But that's what they're...
If these people want to be free of the maskless, then there's a very easy way to do it, which is they need to live in different places.
Mm-hmm.
You can have masky towns, and we can have maskless towns.
That may be what it has to come to, but unfortunately...
it would be so wonderful not to have any cowards around. I would be a happy man.
Can you tell me how the masks are in other parts of the world? Like in other countries? Do they have to wear masks?
They're made of cloth. They go over the mouth.
Well, thank you, nobody. But I mean, what are their policies? Are they wearing masks in Canada? Mexico?
Canada's pretty crazy.
God, Canada's gone completely mad. There was a guy who I saw an article about a guy who flew in. He had a COVID test that had come out negative, but apparently they didn't like the brand of the test that he got. Maybe they weren't doing 75 revolutions of the damn test or something. And so they locked him in a hotel. He's stuck in a hotel. They showed a picture of his lunch. It looked like what they used to give us in jail.
Oh, no.
And, a nasty bologna sandwich with, a tomato. And in jail, they use the whole tomato. So sometimes you'll just get the stem of the tomato. And it looked just like the garbage they fed us in jail. And he's got to pay like $2,000 for this.
Oh, he has to pay for it himself?
Yeah, and they won't let him order regular food, even though there are restaurants right across the street,
And he's a Canadian resident?
No, he just came into Canada for a visit. I don't think he'll ever make that mistake again.
I was told that my roommate actually went down to go on a vacation in Mexico, and so he had a mixed experience down there, where some people in some places were not so masky, and other places were. So, and I don't remember which one was which, so it just depends.
Yeah.
In Mexico City, I know there were people that they had a revolt of restaurants for a while.
Some chain restaurants actually refused to enforce masks.
Yeah, well, they had that, and also when the restaurants were supposed to be closed, they were like, "Screw you, we're opening up."
That's right.
That was in Mexico City, and I saw, there was footage of these cooks with pans and spoons out in the street, wailing on their pans to let people know they were open.
We want to work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. We want to work, and also, hey, we're open. Come get some food.
Yeah. But if you're in a different country and you want to weigh in and answer Angie's question, you're welcome to, because all we can do is just say, hey, this is what we've heard. We've not actually had the experience. A lot of places, they've shut down international travel entirely. You can't go to Canada right now if you wanted to.
So if you go to the border, they won't let you drive through?
That's my understanding.
Okay.
Unless you're from Canada, in which case they have to let you back in.
But then they might quarantine you?
Wouldn't surprise me. I don't know. I don't know what all the rules are there in Canada. I know that everyone in Canada in a lot of places, well, I'm not going to say everyone in Canada. I know that everyone in Quebec, according to a caller last night, is under a quarantine, or not quarantine, under a curfew. So there's like an 8 p.m. curfew across the entire province.
Yeah, it's actually, technically, it's not quarantine, it's house arrest. It's only quarantine if you do it to sick people.
That's a good point. So, according to the New Hampshire Attorney General's office, they've released new recommendations for grocery stores and retailers encouraging mask wearing among customers. Now, the wording here is interesting. Recommendation, encouraging. Guidance. But then when you actually read through the stuff...
I would encourage them to follow my recommendation and learn to use the English language.
after some businesses reported employees were uncomfortable enforcing state guidance.
Which is not the job of your average cashier, by the way. This state guidance is supposed to be enforced by thugs with guns.
Well, if it's guidance, it shouldn't be enforced at all. Guidance should be just a set of suggestions, but unfortunately it's not communicated that way. It's communicated by men with guns, and so it seems like it's not a suggestion, but in point of fact, it is a threat.
Well, if you throw a guy out the window, it's guidance.
No, that's true. Governor Chris Sununu enacted a statewide mask ordinance in November as a way of fighting the spread of COVID-19, but that order didn't specify explicit consequences for those who refused to wear one, although a violation of a governor's orders in emergency cases in New Hampshire and in most states is a misdemeanor if they want to charge you with it. They just haven't.
But you certainly couldn't get one for violating that because that's just a recommendation.
But it's an order, so that's the thing. Like
it's a recommendation, though. It's an order that he recommends it.
Well, but that's the thing.
And I accept his order that he recommend it, and I confess that he did recommend it, which is apparently what he's ordering me to do is acknowledge
not if you actually
that he
read
recommended it.
It's not a recommendation if you read it. It's a requirement. It says that persons are quote unquote required to wear a mask with a set of exceptions.
Well, then he should have written it better, because as far as I'm concerned, once you use the word requirement or once you use the word suggestion, it's
they didn't use the word suggestion. At no point did they use the word recommendation or suggestion. That's the news report here that's saying that the actual order itself. The actual order, the mask order itself, which most people haven't read, and understandably, people are busy and they've got things to do. They're not going to spend their time reading this stupid crap from the government. But it does say it's required. But on the other hand, a lot of these things say guidance, and then they say mandates and requirements. So like they mix up all the wording, and it gets very, very confusing, even if you try to read this stuff. But they're now saying that store owners who are having trouble should call the police on people who don't wear a mask, which maybe that's why Walmart called on your son.
And they'll say, I've got an exemption, and the police will go away.
That's right. Yep. More coming up here. It's Free Talk Live. It's Free Talk Live. Third hour here. We got time for you. If you want to join us, the number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. We're talking about the obedience of people and these mask mandates that just keeps getting worse as long as people keep going along to get along. If you are somebody who's against these things and you're out there putting a mask on, you're part of the problem. Now, there are ways that you can get out of this. All you, in a lot of cases, have to say is you got a medical exemption, and then people will leave you alone. 603-283-6160. With you tonight, it's Ian.
Nobody who's becoming a disobedient separatist.
And Angie.
And when you say that, nobody, you mean that you think that the people who are against all of this, lockdowns, mask mandates, all that we need to actually separate ourselves from the obedient people.
Yeah. I think we need to go one place, and we need to tell them to get the hell out, and tell them if they got problems with somebody where they are, he won't do what they're told. What he's told, well, he's probably our kind of people, so why don't you send him to us?
Do you think that, tough question here, do you think New Hampshire is the place for the disobedient, or has it become overrun with too many obedience?
Well, I think New Hampshire is a great place for the disobedient, and
Why?
People don't want to. I mean, on the one hand, people don't want to make waves. And keep in mind, we're in the most liberal town in New Hampshire, so we get a somewhat skewed view of it. But it's got a long tradition of disobedience. It's got a people whose motto is disobedience, live free or die fighting. Death is not the worst of evil. Obedience to masters is.
Sure.
So yeah, I think it's a great place, and if there are too many obedient people here, I think maybe we should just breathe on them until they get scared and go away.
Yeah, well, I was hoping that we would see, more people in New Hampshire disobeying, and I've been disappointed that we haven't. There's a lot of obeying out there going on in the streets.
I think that's true, and I think a lot of it is because people are not scared. I'm not seeing scared people on a regular basis.
Scared of what?
I'm not seeing people who seem to be scared of the COVID, or even really so much scared of the government. I think a lot of people are just like, I just don't want to deal with this. I don't want to argue about it. So whatever. And and I can understand that. There's, if it was just about the physics of the thing, maybe it would be maybe that would be my choice. The problem is that if people are pretending that there is this massive problem out there and it's not a real problem, then by going along with that, you become part of the real problem. And the real problem is that there's something going on. People are pretending it's way worse than it is.
We've heard from some of our listeners in the chat room that say that there are better places to be. There are a lot of more disobedient places in the United States that beat New Hampshire hands down. Are we in the wrong place? You sure that this is a good place to be? I think
on balance, it's a great place to be. And the reality is, there are probably, and as a matter of fact, there are certainly places that are better than this on the particular issue of masks. And I'm not real clear why that is. I think a lot of it is because, like I say, not having thought out the stakes, they're just reacting to kind of the physical act of it rather than what's this going to lead to if we just go along with it.
I think New Hampshire is a great place to be for a couple of reasons. Because my recent interactions with authority for my son, basically, I found that there was more support and more people here that were not family that were willing to step up and support us and give us ideas and direction than when we talked to family that were not here, that were actually family that were blood, that were like, oh my gosh, why did he do that?
It's about the Walmart thing?
No. The when he got arrested for allegedly fleeing on a bike
from the cops.
Yeah, when he was 15, allegedly. And so if we weren't,
so you're not sure he was 15?
Well, I know he was 15.
Okay, so he wasn't allegedly 15.
Well, no, he was 15, but he was allegedly running from the cops on a motorcycle.
Right.
So, but I think that the support that you have,
15,
the support that you have here for problems or interactions or threats is going to be so great that you can't go anywhere else to get that. And there's not a lot of fear from everyone here.
Well, you're talking about the active. You're not talking about the average person. You're talking about activism. You're talking about the activist movement.
Yeah, well, I'm talking about the support in the people that have moved here or that are around us, and that's the reason that we should stay.
For me, activists are the average person because I don't see the other people. I see the activists.
Let's see. I want to go to the phones here in just a moment. We've got Kenosha Kyle on the. Oh, actually, he was there, and then he just dropped off the line. So we were going to put him on, but
they finally got him for that violation of probation or violation of his bail conditions.
Ooh, yeah, I'd heard that there was a news story out that Kyle Rittenhouse was wanted. What was the violation allegedly?
I don't know, but I did see pictures of him in a bar, so that may have been it. That may have been a technical violation of his bail conditions.
Isn't he like 17?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you refresh my memory on who that is?
Oh, good God. Kyle Rittenhouse went to a riot in Wisconsin. And he went with a buddy, and they brought a couple of rifles with them, and some nice accepting leftists tried to lynch him, and he shot 2 of them to death and took a hunk of meat out of the third.
Oh, wow.
And walked away alive from a lynch mob.
We actually may have him here. Let's go to Sir Kenosha Kyle. His Eminence. This is a supporter of his, I believe. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
All right. Yeah, we got you. Sorry about that. Didn't see you. I saw you, then I didn't see you. So now you're here. What's on your mind?
Yeah, so I wanted to reference the previous caller, the so-called medical expert, who was bringing up the point about how he's had to do a crazy amount of tracheotomies. And tracheotomies have increased during COVID, but people need to understand tracheotomies happen because of being on a ventilator. It's to help ease people off the ventilator, so they've been increasing it to get people off the ventilator faster. But now we know that, and even in lefty articles, not right-wing crazy ones that are science deniers, that doctors are saying people were actually put on the ventilator when they shouldn't have been, and way too many, in fact, were being put on the ventilator, and that it actually harmed people more than it helped. In fact, 88% of COVID patients that were put on a ventilator died.
Wow.
And so his claim about tracheotomy, they're increasing. Well, yeah, they're increasing because you were doing the wrong thing to begin with. And now doctors know that, well, we should try our best to keep them off the ventilator, treat them with oxygen normally, and then also give them remdesivir, that wonderful Trump drug that they tried to say is bad after Trump got it and it saved his life. Well, now they're pushing it again and saying, yeah, it's actually better if we give them that instead of put them on the ventilator.
I absolutely, that's one of the things that really solidified my whole their lying stance, was the whole thing that Trump mentions hydrochloroquine, and all of a sudden, like, governors who have never unilaterally banned any other drug say, oh my God, Trump mentioned that drug. It's way too dangerous for anyone to use because it's come out of a Republican mouth.
Kenosha Kyle, if you want to hang on, we can bring you back here in just a moment. There's more coming up, and your calls are welcome. 603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live. Free Talk Live, the number, if you want to join us here on the radio, our number 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. In the studio with you tonight, you've got Ian. Ooh, sorry, nobody. Let's try that again.
I've been censored. Nobody.
There you are.
And Angie.
All right, 603-283-6160. People weighing in on the latest mask madness. We've got actually a store down in Florida that's pushed back by putting up a big sign out front telling people that they could choose to not wear a mask if they have a medical exemption, and the store won't ask you anything about it. So just reassuring their customers that it's going to be okay if they come shop there without a mask. You're welcome to share your comments and thoughts. We're going to go back to Sir Kenosha Kyle. He is on our Matrix chat server, which, by the way, is the best way to sound like you're sitting here in the studio. Like a phone call is kind of hard to understand sometimes, but when you're on the Matrix server and you're connected to us through the Jitsi connection there, it just sounds absolutely amazing. So we've got him with us here, and Kenosha Kyle, continue with your thoughts, please.
Yeah, so, finally, now that the bad orange man is out of office, they're the mainstream media is flipping their narrative a little bit. Now they're starting to come back and say, oh, let's slow down. Maybe we did make some mistakes with this. Maybe we should have done it differently. Though you still have, the king of flip-flops, Fauci, now talking about 2 masks and 3 masks. And it's common sense to just wear 5 masks on your face and it'll help. And if it helped, then, COVID wouldn't keep spreading while we stopped, 98% of the spread of flu. It's pretty amazing that it,
well, see, it's all because of the people who won't wear masks is why COVID keeps spreading. See, that's why. It's all of our fault.
Yes. And if that worked, then, the hospitals would be way more overrun than they normally are, which is something you mentioned, how they say, oh, we're overwhelmed. The ICUs are at 80%, 90% capacity. Well, what's ironic about that is they normally operate at that capacity during flu season.
Oh, interesting. Now you sound like you might know a thing or two about this. Do you work in the healthcare industry?
No, I've just been obsessed with data and spent way more time than I should have reading and learning.
Now,
and
go ahead.
You can go back many years actually and find the same news media like The Guardian and New York Times, and they show it that even in the UK and as well as in America during this time, oh my God, flu at record levels. The ICUs are at capacity. Well, they're just normally like that.
And by at capacity, that means like what, 80% full or something like that?
Yeah, and sometimes they'll say 100%, but 100% is also incorrect because ICUs are set up. They tell you we have this many beds, but then they have this many on standby. So 100% means, yeah, all our normal beds are full, but we've still got 20 more beds that we can actually open up. And then we've got another 15 that we can turn regular rooms into ICU rooms into temporarily. It's just another fear tactic. It's just another look at these scary numbers.
Yeah, I mean, there's what they say in the news media, and then there's what our real life experience is. And none of us that I know have had a real life experience in any sort of terrifying manner with COVID-19. It hasn't happened.
Well, I don't know. I was actually pretty nervous when I was watching the videos of China.
You mean where they were like forcing people into their apartments and like welding the doors closed?
Yeah, that was
that
scary.
happen?
That was the most terrifying experience I've had due to COVID.
But I meant like an actual experience that you actually had, not just watching a video.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
No problems. No, I had a cousin get it, but he got better.
Yeah. Kenosha Kyle, just to flip the call here just a moment, you're somebody who is one of the critics of New Hampshire. As we mentioned earlier on the show, I was asking Nobody and Angie if they thought New Hampshire was the right place to be. You've said that Idaho, you think, is a better option. Is that right?
I do think it's better. Yeah, at least North Idaho, certainly not South Idaho.
What's the difference?
Down to Boise. South Idaho has more of a mask-friendly leaning. The cops down there have no problem throwing people in a cage for wanting to go to church, but the cops up here have openly expressed how they will not enforce the local health society mask mandate, and so now, because of that, you actually have businesses that openly say, hey, we don't require you to wear a mask. In fact, our employees have chosen to not wear them, or they have medical exemptions. So please come eat here. And restaurants in this area are doing exceptionally well because of that.
Okay. How long would I have to drive if I wanted to go hang out with 100 anarchists?
Well, we have actually had protests early on that were well over 200 people at one point.
Were they anarchists?
But were these anarchists, or were these like 99% Trumpers and a few anarchists scattered in?
Yeah, you've definitely got some Trumpers in there. You've got some blue liners, but there are quite a few libertarians out here, enough to make a difference and get 30-some state reps or whatever. No. But that's not really helping. And here we actually have conservative reps that are not only trying to impeach the governor, that are trying to end the state of emergency as well.
Now, how did the conservative reps? I just was sent this tonight, actually, before we started. It was like probably about an hour ago, and I thought of you, Kenosha Kyle. The headline here from KTVB7: Idaho Senate approves by 2/3 majority, 24-11 vote, a constitutional ban on legal marijuana. Now, this does have to go to a vote of the people, apparently, but are the conservatives that you're lauding in Idaho, are they voting in the 24 to prohibit legalization of marijuana, or are they voting in the 11 to oppose prohibition of marijuana?
Wait, prohibit it and oppose it?
That's definitely one of the issues with this state. Many of those conservatives that I'm lauding are also on the side of prohibiting marijuana. And unfortunately, it's not just marijuana.
See, I'm going to
that's
have a
bill.
hard time making friends with people who want to put me in prison. That just puts me right off.
Yep, it's an issue. And
what do you think's going to happen with this? If you've got 24-11 in the Senate, what do you think's going to happen at the House?
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't think it's going to pass because it's not just marijuana that's in there. It's basically everything. And Idaho has been trying to at least adjust their marijuana criminalization because it includes hemp as well, so that they can allow for hemp to legally farm it. Idaho doesn't have a whole lot of money-making industry outside of potatoes and construction, and those aren't very
So hemp
lofty.
crops are prohibited?
And thanks for filling in some of the other reasons that we're better off in New Hampshire there.
Yep.
Yeah, you got to take the good with the bad.
I'm not going to do well in the potato business. There's not a lot of need for my skills.
Kyle, thanks for the call tonight. I appreciate hearing from you. The number here is 603-283-6160. I think you made a good point as well, Nobody, that this is about more than just how people reacted to COVID. That New Hampshire has a whole lot of reasons why it's the best bet for people that love freedom.
The COVID reaction has been really disappointing here.
No doubt.
Disappointing here. And I think the reason it's been so disappointing is because a lot of the people who would normally be outraged are enamored with the governor who's doing it, so they're keeping their mouths shut.
603-283-6160 if you want to join us here. This is the largest freedom migration on the planet, and that is saying something. There's more coming up. Free Talk Live. To join us here, if you want to take control of the airwaves, you don't have to talk about the mask situation. You can bring up anything you want. Our number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Here tonight, it's Ian.
Nobody.
And Angie.
And we'll continue with more of your calls. If you want to make them, you can also join us online anytime you want. Head over to freetalklive.com. And also, you can join us in real life if you're not afraid to actually be around other people. You can come to ForkFest 2021. It's coming up this summer, June 28th through July 4th, basically the second week of summer. You can spend with us at the Rogers Campground, us and hundreds, hopefully, of other like-minded, liberty-oriented folks. You were there last year, right?
I was
Angie?
there, yeah. This will be our third or fourth year. It was great. I loved it.
And you brought your family with you.
Everybody
too,
came,
right?
kids, everybody.
So forkfest.party, that's where you can go to learn more about the event. And it is basically a decentralized libertarian camping festival. It happens the week after the Porcupine Freedom Festival, which has a little more centralization. They've got a ticket price and organizers. Forkfest doesn't have any tickets. It's just you get your campsite or your RV site or your motel room from Rogers Campground, and then you're on the same campground with a bunch of other libertarian types, anarchists, voluntarists, and whatever happens, happens. So, like, if somebody wants to put together a poker game, they can do that. That happened on more than one occasion. Yeah. There were a couple of party tents, at least. There was a dance party, I believe, as well. So there was a rock and roll concert that happened. So it was a lot of fun. And, we don't know what all is going to go on this year, but if you're there, I suspect you'll have a good time. Go to forkfest.party. You can learn more about the event, get connected with the Forkfest chat room, the Forkfest forum, and more. Again, that's June 28th through July 4th. You can book your campsite right away with Rogers Campground or, again, RV site or motel room. Forkfest.party. State government goons in New Hampshire have been advising business owners that they should call the cops if somebody doesn't wear a mask in their store.
But snitches get ditches?
Snitches get stitches.
Then they go in ditches.
Now,
Okay.
they say
There's
here...
no point in stitching them up if you're just going to throw them in the ditch, though.
Well, you don't want to kill them.
So there is a statewide
I think they go in the ditch after they're dead.
There is a statewide mask ordinance in New Hampshire, but as of yet, no one has actually received a ticket underneath this ordinance, nor has anyone been arrested for it. The order did not specify explicit consequences for those who refuse to wear one, although they could charge someone with a misdemeanor, as I understand the way the system works. But earlier so-called guidance required all staff and customers in retail environments to wear a mask, well, although there were a bunch of exemptions, which of course NPR doesn't mention here, or NHPR. Now,
and I think there's an excellent chance, especially on masking, that you would beat the charge. And the reason that I say that is because there is no scientific evidence that these masks are having any effect on COVID. There has never been a study.
I don't think they need evidence to make this
the
order.
Thing is, They do, because governors do not have, under our Constitution, the authority to be our doctor.
Well,
they do not have the authority to make our medical decisions. And according to the Nuremberg laws, they absolutely do not have the right to force unwilling people to be subject to medical experimentation, which is exactly what they're doing with the masks, with the social distancing, with the quarantines. None of them have been demonstrated to be helpful against the quarantine, and therefore each and every one of them is a medical experiment that we don't even know what the results are going to be. And there is no authority in any state for the governor to perform medical experiments on random people.
I would say that even if I don't disagree with anything you said there, but I think that it's a stronger argument to just argue it from the constitutional perspectives and say, like, you don't have an authority to do this ever. Even if it were shown that the masks were effective, they still don't have the ability to tell people what to do.
I would agree. They don't have the right to be your doctor by force.
Right.
But then there is an additional. I think that you benefit from both arguments, because some people will come up with some reason that in a sufficient emergency, you can do this. Well, maybe with a proven cure under their law, there might be times that makes sense. And under their law, I'm not saying there would ever be a time that is right, because there isn't.
But even under their own law,
under their law, they get hung for forcing people to participate in medical experiments against their will. That's what happened at Nuremberg. That's what happened to Mengele. That's what happened to a lot of the Nazi doctors, specifically for forcing medical experiments on people, and they were hung by the neck until dead. And that's what needs to happen to some of these monsters.
Yeah, even their own law, however, doesn't allow for governors to order people around like this.
No, but it doesn't provide for the death penalty for those that do. And the Nuremberg codes provide for the death penalty for what Sununu is doing right now.
Yeah, I don't know.
And I hope they exercise it.
Yeah, I don't know if you're going to be able to take this to the Nuremberg International Court.
I don't think you will, but the fact that justice will be denied doesn't mean you shouldn't mention what it is.
Sure. Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, just from their own system and their own rules, the governor is supposed to be in charge of the executive branch, and they're not allowed to make laws. So there's, even under their own system, the way it's supposed to work is this one man isn't supposed to just be able to issue whatever things he wants to say and have people obey it. If there were going to be some sort of mask mandate, it would have to get passed through the legislature and then be signed by the governor, which has not.
Not the case?
That's a procedural thing, but the legislature doesn't have the authority to force people to get medical procedures they don't want. That is directly in the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights. I'm pretty sure it's in there.
It's certainly against your right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Absolutely, and it doesn't jive very well with my body, my choice either. And I'm pro-choice on everything, but
well, the New Hampshire Department of Justice is recommending to grocery and retail stores that they call the cops if a customer refuses to wear a mask without a reason listed as an exemption in the emergency order. Quote, as soon as possible, preferably before your business or organization has an issue with a customer who simply refuses to wear a mask, contact your local law enforcement department to have a discussion about establishing a plan for how to deal with such a customer. And again, here they're even admitting that if the customer has a reason to not wear a mask by simply saying, I have a medical exemption, then they can't do anything about it. So this is only advice for customers who won't say they have a medical exemption, who just are standing on their simple refusal to do it. Look, there's no shame in saying you've got a medical exemption if that's what allows you to breathe.
Right.
Yeah. Well, maybe your medical exemption is you're sane and you want to stay that way.
Whatever your medical exemption is, you should tell people that so they don't have to they don't feel like they have to call the cops on you because they're afraid of getting some sort of a ticket or having their business shut down as a result of this. A lot of business owners don't want to go through with this stuff, but they're afraid of what the government gang will do to them, so they will.
So definitely give them the out.
Yeah.
That's just, being thoughtful.
Absolutely. They go on to say business are advised to hang signs on their doors stating masks are required, provide masks and hand sanitizer at each door, and establish a plan should someone refuse to comply. The New Hampshire Grocers Association said that stores were responsible in the past for enforcing these guidelines, and local law enforcement was reluctant to step in. He said the recommendation takes weight off employees who've sometimes had to deal with aggressive confrontations from customers. Well, they didn't have to, but they felt like they did because they were afraid of getting a ticket from the government if they didn't. So, like
if you're not getting paid by the government, law enforcement salaries, don't be enforcing their laws for them.
You're not obligated to, but I like what you said, nobody. Give them the out. Give the employee and the manager the excuse to say, oh, you've got a medical exemption. Well, have a nice day. Or coming up. Free Talk Live is the name of the show. The number is 603-283-6160. In the studio with you tonight, it's me, Ian.
Nobody, war crimes prosecutor.
And Angie. I never know what you're coming out with.
Yeah, he's creative.
That's I got to keep you guessing.
Yes.
Because if you know what's coming, you're not going to be there.
603-283-6160 is our number. We'll continue here with your calls, your thoughts. They're welcome. Let's go to David. He's in New Mexico. You're on Free Talk Live. Hello, David.
Hey, just calling to the Mengele. He actually got away with it. He got to Argentina and lived under aliases and then moved into Brazil and was there till he died.
I thought they whacked that old quack. They didn't whack the quack. Damn.
He got away
I
with
am
it.
really disappointed now. I think we're gonna have to double down with Sununu. I think we're gonna have to write this indictment very carefully.
Yeah.
It would be really interesting to see what happened if Americans as a class just went to the world court and said, look, these people are saying that they're my government. They're not my government. And we don't know who these people are, and we want them to go away. Could you help us with that?
I wonder what the response would be.
Yeah.
Well, you already have the authorization in the Declaration of Independence. You have the authorization that says there in flat out, plain, clear language that the people have the right and the duty to dissolve this government,
Yeah.
And it's there's no arguing that our government is acting on our own behalf. It's quite obvious what's going on, and the people just need to step up. And as for the virus, the masking,
but how do you do that without shooting them?
Well, because you don't have to go and shoot them. You simply have to refuse to follow their orders, and then when they come to shoot you, you defend yourself.
Okay, so you defend. So you're saying that you resist this without shooting people by waiting until later and then shooting people, which doesn't really answer the question, except it kind of answers the underlying query of, do you think there's a way of doing this without shooting people? I actually think there are. I think I've got one. I think there is. I think I've got one, and I'm going to throw it at the world within the next couple of weeks. But
I was hoping you do
a lot
right
of people don't. I'm not ready to completely go into it. Basically, it's going to be probably a speech that goes with the software launch. So
okay.
I want to wait till the software is ready.
David, anything else you want to share tonight?
Yeah, just to sum up this, like I said, we already have the authorization, and these people clearly are not our legitimate government. And as for the question as to why we would wear a mask or not wear a mask, our government has no credibility. We don't trust them at all. It doesn't matter whether they say wear a mask or don't wear a mask, because they've lost all credibility, and now they simply need to go away, or we need to force them to go away. Mm-hmm. It's as simple as that.
Thank you, David, for the call tonight. I appreciate it. The number here is 603-283-6160. I think our best plan is what we touched on earlier, is if you love the ideas of liberty and freedom. Angie, I think you were telling us off the air that you're celebrating 10 years in New Hampshire this year.
Yeah, we moved here in 2011, and the only regret I have is not coming sooner.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it's been wonderful.
I'm so glad to hear that. And nobody, you've been here more than 10 years. I've been here 15. I think I'm coming up on this year. So, if you actually care about freedom, you got to do something about it. And, just complaining is not going to end this. It's not going, they don't care what you think.
And the thing is, it doesn't have to end for me to be satisfied. Basically what I want to see happen for my church is I want it to eventually go out in the woods like the freaking Amish and just, go to Pork Fest and refuse to leave for like 20 years. So
sounds like a good plan.
So, and basically, if I can achieve that level of freedom in a little village of people that I like, then, it doesn't matter that much to me what the rules are outside of that little square of earth, because there exists a place where I will be tolerated to, where I will be permitted to exist. And that's all the hell I want people to do. I've been yelling at people about this since I was 7 years old. I'm trying to program a computer. Go away and leave me alone.
Let's go to an unscreened caller. You're on the air in the remaining moments here of Free Talk Live. Who's this? Hello, unscreened caller. Going once. Going twice. That's always the risk with an unscreened caller, is you don't know
a deadline.
if they were actually there. Well, we tried.
Why do the ghosts hate you?
I don't know.
Why do they even bother to call?
That doesn't happen that often.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't happen that often.
How do they even dial the phone?
Ghosts, ghostly.
Oh my goodness.
They do.
Hey, here's a little bit of interesting news. David Hogg, who is that kid, he's probably not a kid anymore.
He's going to be Boss Hogg one day.
He would like that.
You know what I mean if you ever watched the Dukes of Hazzard.
I think he would like to be your boss. He's a total arch statist.
Yeah, I can see him in the white suit being the corrupt technocrat.
This is one of the at the time, he was a high school student in Parkland High School, which was one of the places where there was a shooting. And he got a lot of press after the fact because, he was willing to be interviewed and was taking all kinds of pro-government positions. So, of course, the press was all about this guy.
And there were other fascinating things about this guy, like the fact that his father is an FBI agent who was transferred to Parkland like 2 weeks before the shooting.
Really?
Yeah, and so I have read. I do not know for sure. I have not confirmed. He has been unwilling to return my phone calls, but
I like it that you actually reached out.
Most of the people that we talk about in the news are. They ain't gonna call nobody back.
So this guy David Hogg has been, not only has he been calling for government, but he lots more government programs and mandates and rules and things like that. But now he's saying he's actually going to go into business. He's going to do something productive. And
that is going to be like watching Charlie Chaplin trying to cook a shoe.
He says that
I can't wait to see it.
He and a software developer named William Legate are launching a pillow company to compete against MyPillow, which is led by a Trump supporter, CEO Mike Lindell. So I don't know if anyone is...
So the only software that's going to run on your pillow is your brain. You don't need a software developer for this project. You're staffing this wrong. Stop that.
So Lindell has gotten a lot of negative press because he's publicly in favor of Trump. He's actually visited Trump and had meetings with him and that sort of thing. And so now Hogg is saying that he and this developer Legate hope to sell $1 million worth of product within their first year, and they'll be launching in about 6 months. He says we'd like to do it sooner, but we have strict guidelines on sustainability and U.S.-based union producers. So that means you're going to be paying a lot more.
So it's going to be made in the U.S.
Made by union workers, apparently, in the U.S. Now that maybe they're going to actually use China-based, product and then have a U.S. worker put it in a box or something like that.
It's been packaged here.
So who knows what kind of Weasley stuff they're going to do. But
why should I care where am I supposed to be happier when a guy in America gets a job than I am when a guy in China gets a job? Because why? They're both equally human.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of America First propaganda out there, and I agree with you, nobody, that as long as somebody's getting me a good product at a good price, I don't care where it comes from.
I resigned from being a white guy. I told you that, right?
No, I don't know about that.
Missed the memo.
I'm not a white guy anymore.
Okay.
I used to be. I quit. I've actually decided to form my own race.
Okay.
And
what would that be?
It's the human race.
Oh, well,
so
I like that one.
Basically, what I'm going to do from now on is when I fill out a form and it says, "What's your race?"
It says other.
I'm going to check other, and I'm going to write in the word human.
I like that. I think Mark Edge used to do that.
Yeah,
as well.
And so basically, and the idea is eventually I want to actually tokenize that, put it on the blockchain. Where
and that's for another show. So check out Nobody at his website, electnobody.com, where he can talk to you about all kinds of tokens anytime he wants to.
You're just terrified I'm going to get technical.
At electnobody.com. And in the meantime, you can join us between now and tomorrow night's show at 7 p.m. Eastern Time over at freetalklive.com. Be sure you check out our social media site, social.freetalklive.com. You're welcome to join that, and we'll see you there.